Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today I just want to do a simple Q&A. I've got a few questions that were like emailed to me, a few questions that I haven't got answered yet. And then I've got 5 questions for beginners. And then at the end, I'm going to show you something new that I can't wait to show you guys. So let's get started. So our first question, what SD card do you recommend for the R6 Mark II? Well, right now, it's probably the worst time you could ever be buying media for your camera because it's so expensive right now. But to answer your question, it kind of depends on what you do. Of course, if you're professional, you probably know this, but if you're professional shooting 8K, lots and lots of 4K, whatever, then you'll want a V90 card. I like ProGrade. They're my favorite, but other brands are fine too. You can get a V60 card, and I've never had a lot of problems doing 4K with V60, and they're a good bit cheaper than the V90 cards. Or if you're just kind of new and starting, go with a V30 card. They might not, I wouldn't suggest a V30 for shooting 8K, but if you're new, you probably didn't really know reason to shoot 8K. So for pictures, you're going to be fine with just about any of them. I would imagine the V30 would be fine if you're just doing, however many pictures a second the R6 II will do. I don't remember. But that should help you out. But expect high prices on your cards. It's very high. And I would suggest probably Adorama or B&H to buy them from. So there you go. Next question. Is a 5D Mark IV worth getting instead of a mirrorless camera? Well, as most photography questions go, it depends. If you spent the last 10 years shooting, with a 5D1, 2, 3, and all those, and you came up that way, and you like it, and you don't want to have to learn anything new, then you can't beat a 5D Mark IV. That was the top of the line DSLR. Just a great camera. I skipped the Mark IV and went into mirrorless, but there was other reasons I was doing that at the time. I would say sit down and figure out exactly what you're wanting to do with it. If you're wanting to do tons and tons of video and you want a hybrid camera, you probably want to go the mirrorless. If not, portraits, weddings, that kind of stuff, you can't beat a 5D Mark IV. They're great, great cameras. They're workhorses and they last, and they're great cameras. So there you go. I hope that helped you out. And back to the question on the R6 Mark II, James Green, if I think you have a R6 Mark II, what would you suggest somebody get on the SD card for that, 30, 60, and 90? Would you say that you recommend one over the other one? Just let him know down at the bottom, drop a note down there. That'd be good. So I think you have one, so I think he knows. He's got it firsthand, and I had the R6 one, but I think he's got the R6 too. So James, if you're watching this, just drop him a note down there if you would, and let him know what you think. Appreciate it. Next question, could someone recommend a non-mirrorless camera for around $600 or $700? This is another, it depends. I'm sure you probably do not have a lens already, so if you go out and buy a camera and you don't have a good lens for it, then you really don't have much to begin with. So if you're just doing just the camera on that for $600 or $700, I would maybe go back to the 5D Mark III, which is a great camera, the Canon 6D, 6D2, not the R6, but the older 6D and 6D2. Those are great cameras, and you can jump into some mirrorless cameras now. You can get into the used market for under $1,000 too, if you want to consider the mirrorless. Kind of depend on which direction you're going, but that's kind of where I would stand on that. But I would save, if that $700 doesn't include a lens, you can get a Canon 6D for probably around $400, and they're very, very good full frame cameras and everything. And then take the rest of that $300 and get you a good Canon 50 millimeter. Get them all used. Got an MPB or KEH, and you should be fine there. So let's jump over to the questions for beginners. Question number 1 that you're going to hear a lot. You guys know this. If you've been doing this very long, you get these questions. The first one is, do I really need manual mode? I know people get so tired of talking about manual mode, this mode and that mode. Look, it don't really matter which mode you shoot in. Back when I was shooting weddings, I would use aperture priority, shutter priority, manual. I mean, whatever I needed to get the picture right, the quickest is the way I went. And, if everything was working perfect and I was shooting, I tried to stay, well, it depends on what I was doing. But, if I'm inside and my lighting is good and I've got my flash on TTL and everything's going good, I would probably put that on, probably change my shutter speed on that one to about 120 and shoot away, depending on which lens I had, probably a 50 millimeter. But no, it's not necessary you do not have to shoot in manual mode. You can if you want to. It's not going to make your pictures look a whole lot different. If you're a beginner, I would suggest shooting either aperture priority or shutter priority. And here's the difference. If you shoot aperture priority, which I know aperture priority is recommended by every YouTuber in the world. It's a good way to shoot, but the problem with that for beginners is it'll drop your shutter speed too low sometimes, and it'll cause your picture to be blurred. You can kind of hear it click, click, and then you'll have a blurry image. Where if you're shooting on shutter priority, you can set that. If you're shooting a 50 millimeter lens, you can set that on like 1/25 of a second, and that way you'll know that your image is not going to be blurry from a shutter dropping too low. So kind of a safety thing there, but it doesn't matter how you shoot. You're just trying to get the best picture that you can, depending on where you're at in your photography journey. Whatever you're comfortable with, go that route. And go out, like I made a video the other day, go out and just practice and practice and practice. And that's how you're going to learn, is just practicing. You'll find the mode that you like better than the other one. You'll find, well, 85% of the pictures I shot on this mode look good, and only half of these look good, and 30% of these look good. So you can kind of figure it out. Spend a day or two out there playing with it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It'll come to you pretty easy. And as you grow and continue to learn, if you want to jump into manual mode, if I did this for so long, if I walk into a room, I can almost tell you just what the available light is going to be just by looking around. But that takes some time, but it'll come to you eventually. So it doesn't really matter about the mode. So just get the picture right, and you'll be good. Why are my photos not sharp? Like I said a while ago, if you're shooting aperture priority and it drops your shutter too low, a slow shutter can cause it to blur. You could be slightly out of focus. If you're using one of the new mirrorless cameras, it might, if it's boxing the whole face, and you've got a low f-stop, it might not be focused on the eye. It could just be maybe on the ear. That box means it's somewhere on the face. But if you're super low f-stop, it could be out of focus looking if you don't have it tack sharp on the eye. If you're shooting Canon and others is going to have a little bitty box, it's going to put around the eye. Lumix and others, you're going to have like the scope on the eye. So that's how I would check that out. Also, you want to make sure you got your shutter up higher than your lenses. So if you're shooting with a 50 millimeter lens, shoot it like 1/25 of a second. If you're shooting with an 85 millimeter lens, you'll still be fine with that same shutter speed. So just keep your shutter speed a little higher than your lens. Just kind of a little trick on that one to help out. Why do my photos look boring? Well, it's probably because you don't have the light right. Let's say that you got a row of trees, you're outside, and let's say you've got a girl with blonde hair. If you move her over to that shade line on those trees and just put her in the back so that the sun is hitting her hair from behind and her face is in the shade, then you can have a little field flash and light up her face from the front, and the sun will light it up from the back. That'll make it a little bit more interesting. It kind of gives you a little depth to the picture and kind of makes it look cool. Her hair stands out, looks good. Your subject placement could be off. There's so many things on that one that could go wrong. Try to get creative. I know when you first go out and you're shooting, you're walking around and you're standing up and you're just shooting everything standing up. Well, try getting down low, lay down on the ground when you have to. You can use this to hold it down low. You don't have to climb down on the ground like we used to. Hold that down, or you can hold it up high and turn it that way and shoot. Change your angle, change your height, and that'll get it more interesting. So just go out, like I said on that other one, practice. You'll get it figured out pretty quick. It's not too hard to do. If you have any questions, just write me, let me know. But simple practice is going to be what you need. What lens should I buy first? And here's another, depends. I would recommend, there's a big, YouTube is probably split between a 35 millimeter and a 50 millimeter. I like 50 better. Some people like 35 better. I think 35 is just a little bit too wide for me, especially if you're trying to get in headshots on people. People do headshots with 35. I prefer the 50 look. I get a little bit more blurry background if I move into my subject a little bit with my 50. Everything all being even, f-stop being even on the two lenses. Or if you're wanting to shoot, maybe you're starting, there used to be a place in Atlanta where he only did headshots. I mean, his studio must have been 10 foot by 10 foot. So you'd look in it must have been appointment only. But this whole place was only like 10 foot wide and 10 foot long, and he only did headshots. I don't know how he did it, but he wasn't there very often. I don't think I ever saw it open, but his whole store was just headshots, and I don't think he could have shot anything else because he didn't have room. But I thought that was pretty cool that he did headshots in that little bitty space. And he probably out of 50. I don't think he was pulling off any 85 millimeter shots. I don't think he had enough room in there to get an 85 lens and make that look good. Next question will be the last one. What makes a photo look professional? Well, I think, to me, good lighting, lighting up the eyes, and some people are like, oh, I'm outside, I don't need a flash. Well, you definitely need a flash when you're outside because the sun is going to put dark circles in your eyes because our eyes are inset, and you need to get a flash to get them in there. And if you don't believe that, take somebody outside, shoot a picture with the flash off, and then shoot a picture with the flash on, and you just won't believe the difference it does on the face. It's going to bring out the eyes, make them pop, and you're going to be able to see the eyes. They're not going to be inset and dark. You know, a lot of these available light photographers, they can have beautiful big group shots and they look great, but they don't use flash. So when they're shooting, you know, one or two people, unless they've got reflectors or something just right, the eyes never look right to me. They seem to, I would suggest for them to use a flash, but that's for them to decide. But anyway, so before we move on, I'm going to show you something cool. This was going to be what our video was going to be about, but it didn't come in till late. We have just got in. I've never shot with one of these type lenses, and I believe I pronounced the company right, Sirui Anamorphic 24 millimeter, and it is for my Lumix G9 Mark II, which is a micro 4/3 camera, so that'll make it a 48 millimeter, which is right along the lines of the 50, and that is one heavy lens. Wow, that is heavy. That is a super heavy lens, especially compared to this little bitty one. Wow, it'd take 15 of these to weigh what this weighs. Goodness gracious. I might be too old to carry that around. But that is a beautiful lens. Let's see. Here you go. I'm going to show you through here. So you can see it right through here how it shoots. This will take, you know, if you're shooting at nighttime and you've got car headlights or whatever coming in, it'll take the blue streak like you see on TV. If most everybody has a big screen now, so when you're watching and you've got the black bar at the top and the black bar at the bottom, and your movie or whatever is going across the middle, you'll notice how there's a lot of blue lights. You may not ever notice it, but next time you're watching a show, pay attention, especially if they have a lot of nighttime evening scenes, cars pulling in or lights, you'll see it'll be a streak of blue, and that's one of the things this will do. And I wanted to check this out and see what it'll do. That is a one beautiful lens. The problem is it's manual focus, so that's going to be fun for me because I'm not as young as I used to be, but wow. It's going to be the equivalent of a 24 millimeter, and it's a 2.8. It's got a very soft turn like that, and the aperture is click-free. So when you're doing the video, you're not hearing click, 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 click. But yes, that is going to be very nice. That is a very heavy lens. Check that out. I think that's very pretty. So we'll be doing some pictures with this soon. If you guys have any questions, if any of you beginners, I know a lot of you guys have been in this a long time, probably didn't have any of these questions in your head, but try to help everybody, beginners and guys have been shooting for a couple of years, and so on and so forth. So, and we'd like for this to be your home for photography. I'm Daniel, as you can tell by the name behind me, and I shot for 42 years. And I just like to pass on what I was taught from photographers when I first started shooting. And I do YouTube full time now, so I'm always here to help you out. If you have a question, just drop it down at the bottom and I'll help you guys out. And we really would, everybody here, we have a great group of people. If you drop a question down at the bottom and I don't see it immediately, there's other guys on the site that are really good at what they're doing. They've been shooting for a long time and they can help you out. And super nice people. We have the best group of people on the entire internet. So that's the kind of people we want. Whether you've been shooting since yesterday or you started in 1974, we'd like for you to be on our site. Anyway, appreciate your time. Thanks for watching. You guys have a fantastic day.